Till noon tomorrow, indicating this storm's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, it is, and that really goes along the lines with just a couple days ago. Even the National Weather Service was saying what is expected with the amount of snow in the wind, treacherous, if not life-threatening travel. So you understand why a travel ban would be going into effect. And this is a product from the National Weather Service. And just by looking at this, without talking about what type of weather, just saying that when it comes to winter storm, winter weather impacts, major in red, extreme in purple. So major to extreme impacts here from around Atlantic City all the way up to Providence, Rhode Island, and into Boston, even parts of Maine. Now, a big reason for that, the snow, the amount of snow and the wind. Blizzard conditions expected. Blizzard warnings here from Virginia and the Delmarva all the way up to Maine. The entire state of Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island in blizzard warnings. And here is the snow that's falling right now. Darker purple is showing us where the heavier snow is coming on shore. Lightning closer to where the development of that center is going to be. The center is developing and it's going to rapidly strengthen over the next several hours and remain strong throughout the day tomorrow. But right now, rain changing over to snow, snow getting heavier on Long Island and in New York, southern Connecticut. So it is now getting into the point where it is full swing. Reasonable expectation of what we can expect in terms of snowfall from the Delmarva, anywhere from 8 inches to 12 inches. Now, it's pockets in here, could see closer to 2 feet, but widespread, more than a foot of snow can be expected along much of the Interstate 95 corridor as we're seeing these very strong winds pushing the water to the shoreline. Minor to moderate flooding will be significant across some of these areas with temperatures right around the freezing mark. This is what we call wet snow. They're actually partially melted snowflakes that stick together. They're these huge looking snowflakes. They're heavier. There's more water in each snowflake. So what that means is the snow is going to stick to stuff and be heavy. So branches, power lines, more likely to lead to the potential of some power outages. So Jessica, here's a look at the extent of some of the flood alerts as well. A lot of that ocean water pushing onshore.
A powerful winter storm that is sweeping across the northeastern United States where heavy snow is accumulating, and we're now bracing for the potential of blizzard conditions in the coming hours. The Storm Prediction Center is now warning of prolonged overnight whiteouts that are possible from New York City to Boston, where snow will fall through Monday morning as you see that system via this radar. Some heavy bands could potentially dump up to 2 inches of snow per hour. More than 40 million people across 11 states are under blizzard warnings, including in New Jersey, where power outages are now mounting, and some areas have already seen more than a half foot of snow. So what does it look like on the ground, especially here in New York City, where authorities have been preparing? Let's go to CNN's Gloria Pazmino, who continues our live coverage from Midtown Manhattan. Gloria, good to see you again. We're several hours into this. Has the city said, have they shared if there are any troubled areas right now, any areas of concern thus far?
We have seen some accidents throughout the city in the last few hours, and that is part of the reason, Paula, why the mayor put in a travel ban as of 9 o'clock this evening. So we're 2 hours into it now, and we have seen the streets get more and more desolate. There are still people walking around, and there are still some vehicles on the road, but the mayor has asked New Yorkers that if they can help it at all, to just stay home tonight. You're going to make it very difficult for sanitation and emergency workers to get around, potentially get into an accident, potentially get stuck. So if you can help it, stay home. We've also watched as the city's plows have been coming around over the last several hours. More than 2,000 pieces of equipment are out in force tonight, making sure that the streets are cleaned. And for the next several hours, we are expecting this snow to significantly pile up. We are on track now to potentially see some historic numbers by tomorrow morning. The last time we had significant snowfall here in New York City was January of 2016. We got 27.5 inches. And as I say that, honestly, I am just a little bit afraid for what the morning is going to look like, because once we get over a foot of snow in New York City, it becomes very hard to get around. So that's part of the reason for the travel ban. Listen to the mayor earlier today talking about why he wants New Yorkers to stay off the roads.
We are declaring a state of emergency and instituting a travel ban starting at 9 p.m. this evening and ending at 12 p.m. tomorrow. This state of emergency closes the streets, highways, and bridges of New York City for all traffic, cars, trucks, scooters, and e-bikes, with some specific exemptions for essential and emergency movement. We are asking New Yorkers to avoid all non-essential travel. Please, for your safety, stay home, stay inside, and stay off the roads.
Now, Paulo, we've been talking about how these are blizzard conditions. We are under a blizzard warning here in New York City, and we haven't had that in a few years. And what that means is that visibility is severely being affected, and also that the winds are significant, between 30 and 35 miles per hour. All of those conditions sustained for at least 3 hours. That's what gives you a blizzard. So the next few hours, if you do not need to be outside, it's getting late into the evening, we're going to go inside. And tomorrow morning, when the travel ban lifts at noon, much of the cleanup is going to begin. The city does have some challenges ahead of itself. There was some criticism for the mayor a few weeks ago during the last storm. I will say that storm was much colder, and that made conditions much more difficult, especially for people outside. It's not as cold today, but still a very dangerous storm. The city also deploying outreach workers to make sure that anyone who may be vulnerable and may still be outside tonight is brought inside for their safety. Paulo?
You know, Gloria, it is so telling, too, that the snow is only covering one side of your hat. I think for viewers watching your report, if they happen to be watching it without audio, that tells you everything, the intensity and the direction of the snowfall. And because of that, we're incredibly grateful to you and your team as well for your reports all night. Thank you. CNN's Gloria Pazmino with a live report from New York. We want to go from there to Robin Christensen. He's the mayor of Dover, Delaware, the state's capital. He joins me from Dover. Mayor, welcome to CNN. Thank you so much for taking the time to update us.
Good evening.
So wondering if you can bring our viewers up to speed with what the situation is like there where you are, and what are your biggest concerns at this hour, as many people there are in for a rough night?
So at this point in time, I want to commend, first off, all of our emergency services, our police, our volunteer fire department, EMS. All of my city workers have been mobilized to put every piece of equipment that we have on the street to keep emergency lanes open to our Bay Health Kent General Hospital facility, which is the main hospital here in Kent County. And they're doing yeoman jobs. So far, we've had some minor electrical outages because of the heavy snow on wires. A couple transformers have gone out, and the fire department, the volunteers have responded out on at least 9 calls that have come across my phone. Our big concern is the heaviness of the snow, the wind. It is not as cold as it was the previous storm that we had, but we did have a lot of residual snow piles left over from the previous snowstorm that we had, because it really wasn't snow. It was snowcrete, which was a combination of snow and about 1.5 inches of ice. So that really, we were still hauling snow away over the last week to get it off of our street corners where it had been plowed. Hard to believe that yesterday it was 56 degrees and sunny here in Dover. I didn't wear a coat to a basketball game that I went to, and here about 24 hours later, we have blizzard conditions, coastal flood watch in effect, as well as a high wind warning. So we are prepped for it. We are going to do the best job we can in conjunction with AJ and the folks from DEMA in the state of Delaware. As he mentioned, there is a level 2 driving restriction, and I would just ask all my citizens, as a matter of fact, all the citizens of Kent and Sussex County, to pay attention to that, because it's important to have the people that are going to be moving the snow, our first responders and EMS and volunteer firemen, to be able to do their job, the electric crews and the plow crews to do their jobs. So that's why those driving restrictions are in place.
Mayor, before we let you go, I'm wondering if you could just add some historic context here, or perspective. I mean, how do you think this storm will rank overall in terms of winter weather events for Delaware?
Well, I think it's going to be probably up in the top 10. I grew up here. I remember when we had thunder snowstorms and lots of wind-blown snow and drifts that were 10, 12, 14 feet high and deep across the roads. But this is going to be in the top 10.
That's extremely telling, and I certainly second the motion to thank all those just incredible folks out there, the first responders, the crews who don't have the luxury of being able to stay at home to make sure that we're all safe. So thank you, thank them, and certainly thank you, Mayor, as well for your update and your time. Robin Christensen from Dover, Delaware. From there, we want to get you now to Mystic, Connecticut. Check back with Stefan Reels. He's a reporter for WTIC. He's got the latest on the situation there. Stefan, it's good to see you again. It looks like the snow accumulation has grown considerably behind you in the last couple of hours.
Yeah, it definitely has gotten a little more intense. When we last talked, I think that was around 8 p.m. We really just had that nice little coating. You could still see the roads. Things were fine. Now it's added and gotten a little more intense. Those gusts really started to get in the way while we were in our normal shows. It completely blew a lot of snow off, and I just kind of want to now set the scene. If you look right down here, you can kind of just see how deep things have gotten. We've been measuring it. It's about a few inches deep right now, but coming back up, I want you to just take a look at these hotel cars that we have been just pleasured with right now, because that kind of gives you a better idea of like what kind of snow we're dealing with. Not only is it, one, very easy to grab and holds itself together. I can throw it off and it stays in contact. It also shows you how deep it is. We got quite a fair amount of inches. Unfortunately, that's going to run into the same problem that a lot of these roads out here in Mystic are going to run into as well. And the fact that even if you clear it out, we have so much snow coming down over the next few days that it's just really not going to accomplish a whole lot. And just to give you a better idea of how heavy this wet snow is going to be, you can even just look up at these branches right here at our hotel, and you can see that the snow catching onto these branches is really starting to weigh it down, and really that is where a lot of danger here in Connecticut is going to be, because that could potentially hit power lines. And our utility company, like I said earlier, is already anticipating that there are going to be outages, but they said that due to these conditions, the big one being wind and how fast it could potentially get up to 55 miles an hour, that it could make things very difficult. So while plows do try to clear the roads, the crews aren't going to be able to fix these power outages until they can actually get anywhere. So that's why a lot of leaders, including mayors, including our governor, Ned Lamont, has been urging everyone, one, to stay inside, but before they do so, just get their cars out of the way so that they can help clear the roads at this time.
Yeah, Stefan, and those visuals are really just incredibly telling. You show us the hood of the car and that accumulation. It's easy to visualize that on a roadway and how that could spell trouble, and then on the branches too. Just like snow accumulates on the branches, it could accumulate on power lines, hence the concern about power outages. On that issue, Stefan, where you are, have there been any reports of power outages, and what did utility crews do leading up to this storm to be able to respond when it's safe to do so?
So, yeah, there have been a few power outages. I have been able to listen into our team back in Hartford, where it's nice and warm, and they told me that there are quite a number of outages, even so far. So ahead of this, crews have been just trying to get everything in order. Eversource had their emergency response plan already in place because they were anticipating that they might get into upwards of maybe 130,000 outages over the course of the storm, but they also brought in a lot of extra work. So while they do have every single lineman from the field stationed across the state ready to work in shifts so they can address every problem as soon as possible, they also brought in a lot of external services just to help build everything up, and that adds on top of what Connecticut lawmakers have been doing with the Department of Transportation. They have hundreds of these plows stationed across the state to help with everything.
Keeping that snow off the roadways and also off those power lines. Some 115,000 power outages already confirmed throughout the country, all weather related at this point. Storm that's slamming into the East Coast. The snow, it's far from over. In fact, it's expected to intensify overnight with the heaviest bands potentially dumping 1, perhaps even 2 inches of snow per hour after midnight. And the Storm Prediction Center says that prolonged whiteouts are expected as high winds, gusting at about 40 to 70 miles per hour, potentially stir up this these blizzard conditions that millions are experiencing. Over half a foot of snow has already fallen in parts of New Jersey, where some power outages are already being reported. And forecasters are saying that some areas could see well over a foot of snowfall overnight, with isolated totals approaching 2 feet by Monday morning. Let's head back out to my colleague CNN's Gloria Pazmino. She and her team has been braving these weather conditions for hours now. Gloria, if there's perhaps some silver lining, at least it's not as cold as it was last month, but that doesn't make these conditions, any less difficult to stand in and any less dangerous.
You're right, Polo. But, I was out here for the last storm for when we had those brutally cold conditions. And even though we're getting a lot of snow right now, a lot of wind, it is not as cold. It's cold. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to make it sound like it's warm out here, but it was brutally cold last time. And so that gives us a little bit, a little bit of a silver lining. It's getting pretty desolate out here in Columbus Circle in front of Central Park where I'm standing right now. We're still seeing some vehicles on the road. There is now a travel ban in effect. That will not be lifting until noon tomorrow. The mayor, Zohran Mamdani, asking people to stay off the roads. He wants to make sure that sanitation workers, which are out in force tonight into tomorrow morning, can do their jobs, but also emergency workers who need to get to people who actually need help can do so. Of course, also to avoid accidents. We've already seen some throughout the evening from people being on the roads. So city streets, highways, bridges, all shut down to traffic until noon tomorrow. I also just want to talk about the conditions because we keep hearing the word blizzard, and we actually need very specific conditions in order to have that designation. Part of what you need is sustained winds for up to 3 hours, and we're seeing that wind right now really pick up. You can see the snow is just blowing sideways, and it's kind of hard to stay on your feet, especially with the snow and the ice lining the sidewalks. Into tomorrow morning, we're going to start to see a lot of the cleanup effort get underway. There are more than 2,000 pieces of equipment that are being deployed for this. 2,600 sanitation workers working 12-hour shifts from early on today into tomorrow, and likely for several more days into next week. As the city begins to dig out, we're talking about a potential foot and a half of snow. That is going to be debilitating for the city of New York. It's a lot of snow. It's going to make it hard to get around. So a lot of people will likely be staying home. Very importantly, New York City kids will have a full-fledged snow day. So I expect that tomorrow, right here at this very spot in Central Park, when the snow finally stops falling, there's going to be a lot of happy children running around, sledding down the hills here in the park. But for now, if you can help it, stay home, stay off the road. Public transportation is very limited right now. And the plows, they're out making the rounds, making sure that the streets are as clear as possible. But we do expect the snow to continue to pile up into the evening hours and into the morning, and likely not will not be stopping until at least noon or so. Polo?
Yeah, we have heard it from one expert after another, Gloria, that the worst is still ahead for many communities up and down the Northeast. Gloria Pazmino and your entire team, thanks again for braving those conditions. Your eyes are out there. So many people counting on you, so thank you. Want to get to one of those experts actually right now, Steve Decker. He's the director of the meteorology program at Rutgers University. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining.
Great to be here.
Let's talk just the history of this storm. When everything is said and done, I mean, what makes this storm so extraordinary, Steve?
Well, one of the things that's so extraordinary is just how rapidly it's intensifying. It is one of those so-called bomb cyclones that's happening right now. The winds are really starting to pick up along the coast. Sometimes we get heavy snow in the Northeast without huge winds, but with this storm, especially along the coast, very strong winds are going to happen.
And then for folks who are not used to this kind of weather, I mean, how are blizzard conditions different when you compare it to maybe what we experienced about a month ago? Is it the potential for whiteout conditions? Is it the wind?
Right. The wind is a key ingredient, and that's going to be whipping the snow around. Also, we don't have the sleet mixing in like we did with that last storm, so that's going to blow much easier. That's also going to reduce the visibilities to give us those blizzard conditions this time around.
Let's talk about what you expect to happen, obviously the next 12, 24 hours. What will be the biggest areas of concern for you that you're watching?
So anywhere along the coast, basically along the I-95 corridor from Philadelphia up to Boston, and then east of there, right along the coast, those are the areas that are under the gun for the strongest winds and the heaviest snow. Yes.
So you talk winds, you talk snow. Let's talk the potential for flooding. Seen some of your colleagues also express some concern over some of the coastal areas. Where should people stay particularly informed right now as this storm off the coast continues to develop?
Right. So there is some coastal flooding with this storm in the moderate to, in some places, maybe in the major category. So if you're in a place where you've experienced coastal flooding before, you would definitely want to pay attention to that. It's not going to be an unprecedented, coastal flood, but areas that have experienced coastal floods in the last few years are going to be under the gun tonight as well.
And then just finally, what is this sort of imperfect combination of conditions that made this storm what it eventually became? I mean, folks have been tracking this for quite some time, and it seems that it just developed so quickly.
Right. It was sort of a Goldilocks scenario where a number of different weather systems came together just right. We had the previous weather system on Friday that gave us rain here in the Northeast, and that left behind a cold front sort of snaking across the middle of the country, and that was the boundary on which this storm could develop. It received some energy from a storm that came ashore in California a few days ago. There was another system diving down out of Canada over the last few days. And so everything just came together across the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, basically right now, to make it happen.
Sure. Steve Decker checking in with us from New Jersey, one of many states already experiencing some issues, including power outages. Steve, the best to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
To this affected area, you see the forecast accumulation there. We're joined now once again by CNN's Gloria Pazmino in New York, tracking the situation on the ground. And CNN meteorologist Chris Warren is closely following this weather system on the map. Gloria, to you first. We're about 33 minutes now into this, I would say, quite unusual travel ban. What does that look like, and what's Mayor Mamdani's goal in instituting that?
Look, Polo, the goal here is to keep as many people off the roads as possible. The streets, the highways, the bridges across New York City are all shut down to traffic with some exemptions. Essential workers, emergency workers, people are still going to be able to get around. But if you really don't need to get behind the wheel, the mayor is asking New Yorkers to avoid doing so because it is dangerous out here. We've seen a lot of the streets around us here in Columbus Circle really clear up in the last hour or so. We're still seeing some vehicles on the road. We've seen a lot of NYPD vehicles patrolling the area as well. Of course, we are now seeing consistent plows going around. The wind now significantly picking up. You could see there's the NYPD going by and a person battling this wind with their umbrella. Conditions here really just starting to deteriorate. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul has activated the National Guard. They are going to be people who may potentially need to be rescued.
Yeah, all right. Unfortunately, because of that wicked winter weather out there, that transmission taking some hits. But that last frame tells you just about everything you need to know. You see basically horizontal snow there where my colleague Gloria Pazmino was reporting from there in Midtown Manhattan as those conditions continue to deteriorate. Want to see if we can go to our weather expert. Let's go to meteorologist Chris Warren at the Weather Center. Chris, you just saw some of those live pictures from Gloria. What does that tell you when you see sideways snow? Again, this is coming from a non-expert. What does that tell you, and what does that look like on the map?
Well, first, just looking at that shot, Polo, I'm a little chilly just looking at that. And the winds are picking up. And what that tells me is that even though it is so early on in what is expected, it's going to get a lot worse. So as bad as it is now, this is just the beginning. This is the future satellite, and this is a storm that is bombing out, the bombogenesis, a bomb cyclone, as you hear. And that's the explosive development of this. The storm is going to develop so quickly. It's going to strengthen so quickly that it's like a bomb. It's like an explosion. It's a metaphor for just how fast it is going to be developing. And it's over the next few hours where it's going to be getting close to as strong as it's going to be, and it will be as strong as it's going to be in the morning, mid-morning or so, and it will remain that way until it leaves the U.S. So with Gloria's live location there where she is in New York, Central Park and Columbus Circle, with the snow blowing around, it's only going to get worse. The snow's only going to get heavier. And the National Weather Service has blizzard warnings posted for parts of 11 states here in the Northeast. Close to 40 million people under a blizzard warning. Winter storm warnings, which are also high impact warnings the National Weather Service issues when it comes to the winter weather. That extends well into central PA, up the Hudson River Valley, southern Vermont, and New Hampshire, and a lot of Maine. Here's the snow and what's happening right now. And do you notice this? That is lightning closer to the center. Another sign that there is intensification going on. This storm is getting stronger. It is going to end up being a beast. The darker blue colors, purplish blue colors here, this is a look at the banding. So where you end up with the banding that lasts quite a while is where the snowfall totals are really going to add up. And we're seeing a lot of that right now here in Delaware, pretty much across the entire state. A little bit of purple in here. That's even heavier snow. And this is the kind of snowfall rates where a snowplow will come through, plow a street, and will need to come back a couple hours later, maybe even an hour later in some cases. And then there's these plumes like this moving into eastern Long Island. That's going to help add up, help build up those snowfall totals. Things are getting going here in some of the south towns around Boston, Rhode Island. You're in it now. Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, the Cape also in the snow, and it's going to last for most of the day tomorrow as well. Now, when we look at this, you can see some of the banding right in here, some of those stripes, if you will, or some of the waves. Those are the heavier snow showers that are expected. So I point that out to show you this. The snowfall from one model, reasonable scenario of what can happen. What's really relevant now are those bands and where it snows the longest and heaviest. So while this looks pretty uniform, it's going to be coming in pockets. So it's really how the storm now develops and evolves through time, which will determine who ends up getting the most. But you're going to be in it for quite a while here in that 95 corridor. Notice it's been snowing for the past couple of hours in many of these areas, or few hours, depending on where you are. And by overnight tonight at 3 o'clock in the morning, still snowing. So still ongoing. Let's take it forward again. Here's now around daybreak. Here's 7 o'clock in the morning. Finally starting to come to an end here in Delaware, still going here in southern New Jersey, with the winds coming around here, coming from the east, pushing the water on shore, absolutely howling with the winds, and the snow still coming down. True nor'easter, there's the low, the northeast winds coming into Boston, into Plymouth, into Duxbury, into the Cape, and by 8 o'clock tomorrow, you're still going to have a few bands there, so still snowing possibly at Logan there in Boston before it eventually kicks out. So as all those winds are blowing, those winds are pushing water on shore. So significant minor to moderate flooding is expected here from Virginia and Maryland coastal areas all the way up New Hampshire and into Maine as well. So with that, the snow that's down there, the water coming on shore, the long-lived ice scenarios, not going to be as big of an issue as we've seen in some of the recent storms here in the Northeast, with daytime highs getting above the freezing mark throughout much of the week, right at the freezing mark on Tuesday, but the sun will help melt things a bit. But I'll tell you what, Polo, tonight things are going downhill in a hurry. The little saving grace is that it is tonight. It's not the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, where maybe you can catch people off guard or trying to be, a little too brave in some cases. And it's going to be moving relatively quickly, even though it's going to be snowing in some areas, Polo, for hours and hours and hours.
And there are a lot of children here in New York City that is music to their ears, especially those that are getting their sleds ready for tomorrow, which is expected to be the actual first full snow day in a long time for the New York City schools. Thank you so much, as always, Chris Warren, for spelling that out for us. Thank you. We are going to continue following our breaking news situation here as the storm rages across the Northeast. A lot of people will be shoveling snow in the coming days throughout much of the Northeast, and it becomes more difficult when the snow isn't your usual powdery or fluffy snow. And you know where I'm going with this, where it's very difficult to either shovel or plow some of this stuff. It's that heavy, wet snow that's coming with this storm. It can be very dangerous, and it's called heart attack snow. And because cleaning it up puts a massive strain on the body, specifically on the heart, especially for some of those folks who may not be in big tip-top shape. CNN medical analyst Dr. Jonathan Reiner joins us now. Dr. Reiner, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Paul.
Just before we get started, just sharing some numbers with our viewers. Shoveling snow responsible for as many as 100 deaths on average each year. What can you tell us about the so-called heart attack snow? What do people need to know?
So what people need to know is basically on behalf of my brother and sister cardiologists up and down the East Coast, if you have a history of heart disease, or if you have hypertension or diabetes, or basically if you're over 50 and just out of shape, don't shovel snow. Pay the kid down the street to do it. Support your neighborhood economy. Pay somebody else to do it. Shoveling snow is an enormous amount of exercise. It's both aerobic exercise and isotonic exercise, and you're doing it basically not in a refrigerator like Rocky. You're doing it in a freezer. And those very low temperatures basically create a situation where your arteries constrict in the periphery, which raises your blood pressure, and the arteries around your heart constrict, and that sort of decreases the supply to your heart, and you create this supply-demand mismatch. And if you're at risk of heart disease, or you've had a stent in the past, or a heart attack, or bypass surgery, you can provoke an acute coronary event like a heart attack. You mentioned about 100 people die every year shoveling snow. In the last storm 1 month ago, I went in during the storm. I was on call to take care of somebody who was actively having a heart attack. And a couple of thousand people in the United States probably have a heart attack every year as a consequence of shoveling. So if you can avoid it and you have any of those risk factors that I mentioned, don't shovel.
And it's really important, and I'm especially glad that you mentioned those who know that they have a history of heart disease or heart illness. What about those, though, who may have one and not even know it? Are there any specific signs or symptoms that people should be on the lookout for when they're shoveling snow, that they should take a break?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So as you said, sort of the wet snow, which basically we get when the temperatures are not as cold as they were a month ago, that wet snow is heavily laden with water. And this wet snow can basically weigh 4 times as much as sort of the dry powder that you can get in some of the Western ski resorts. And lifting that is a shocking amount of exercise. A person who's not well trained shoveling snow for 2 minutes can get their heart rate up to about 85% of their maximal predicted heart rate, which would be basically the heart rate that you would achieve if you were being chased by a tiger. So that's in 2 minutes. So it's basically in a very severe stress test. So symptoms that you would have would be shortness of breath, very fast heartbeat. Maybe you start sweating. Maybe you start to get a little bit dizzy. And if you have any symptoms shoveling snow, it's time to stop. The other thing I'll mention is that it's easier to push the snow than it is to lift it. Also, take breaks when you're doing it. If you're expected to get a lot of snow, don't wait to shovel until you have 2 feet. Do this in several batches. And again,
and welcome to our viewers here in the U.S. and around the world. We begin with this live picture looking over Lady Liberty here in New York City. If you can make her out there with that snow as we continue to watch this massive winter storm that's slamming parts of the northeastern United States with heavy snow, gusty winds, and the potential for blizzard conditions. The Storm Prediction Center is warning that prolonged overnight whiteouts are possible from New York City all the way up to Boston, where snow will likely fall through Monday morning. Already some heavy bands have dumped plenty of snow in parts of the country here, with some parts expecting a rate of about 2 inches of snow per hour. So that tells you a lot. More than 40 million people right now across 11 states are under blizzard warnings, and that includes New Jersey, where power outages are already being reported, and some areas have already seen more than a half a foot of snow. CNN's Gloria Pasmino has been closely following the situation here in New York as we're now an hour into this travel ban. So there's that, Gloria. And then, of course, if people are heeding the warnings from officials to just stay indoors and wait for tomorrow morning before they go out to enjoy this.
Yeah, and part of the reason for this travel ban, Polo, is what you just mentioned, the possibility for complete whiteout conditions on the roads. Part of the reason why the city streets, the highways, the bridges are shutting down to traffic. We've seen traffic slow down here in the last hour or so, but there are still some vehicles on the streets. Public transportation is still operating on a very limited schedule. And of course, we're seeing the snow plows making their rounds around the city. More than 2,000 pieces of equipment have been deployed by the city of New York, along with 2,600 sanitation workers who are working 12-hour shifts from earlier today into tomorrow, when much of the cleanup is going to begin. Now, the travel ban, there are some exemptions for essential workers, emergency workers, but if you do not have to go anywhere right now, the mayor, the governor, asking people to stay indoors, stay off the roads, both for safety reasons and to allow essential workers and emergency crews to get to the people who actually need the help. I've been out here in front of Central Park all day, Polo, and in the last few hours, things have really sort of deteriorated. It's gotten much colder. The snow is significantly piling up. It is sticking, and it gets very windy from time to time. Governor Kathy Hochul addressing New Yorkers earlier today, deploying the National Guard for those who might need help getting out, and making sure that equipment is available throughout the state. It's not just New York City. Much of the state is being impacted by this potentially historic storm.
We have over 100 members, more if necessary, staged across Long Island, New York City, and Lower Hudson Valley. And they've deployed additional 25 vehicles to help with a downstate response. They're ready to be nimble. They'll go where they're needed. They can do anything from helping individuals be rescued out of their vehicles, or helping transport emergency personnel or medical personnel to their jobs.
Now, another thing I do want to mention that is, really important as we get into the later hours this evening, the NYPD and other outreach workers are out 24 hours a day, making sure that the city's most vulnerable people are brought inside, homeless New Yorkers. The last time we had a storm, which was less than a month ago, there were 19 deaths of people because of the extremely cold temperatures. That's one thing that's different this time around. It is not as cold, but these are still very dangerous conditions. So the city is in a code blue, which means that the shelter requirements have been eased so that people who need shelter can come in. The city has also opened up over a dozen warming centers. Warming buses have been deployed around the city. And as I said, outreach workers are out canvassing city streets for anyone who may still be out there tonight. The city has also done some course correcting in the last few weeks because of what happened in the last storm. For example, the city had been asking New Yorkers to report people who are outside to 311. Now they're rerouting those calls to 911 to make sure that emergency workers are sent out right away. So again, Mayor Zohran Mamdani got some criticism because of that last time around, so we can see how he's making some changes. Also importantly, going into tomorrow morning, the city's schools will be closed. That's another significant change in the city's response from the last storm because last time the city's kids had remote learning. There was also a lot of criticism, not just from kids who wanted a snow day, but from parents who actually had trouble logging into the system, the remote learning system. So tomorrow, for the first time in several years, in fact, since 2019, New York City kids will get a full-blown snow day. I also want to talk about public transportation. Usually that's the best way to get around when there's a bad weather event happening, but a lot of the systems are operating on a limited schedule. The city's ferry has been suspended. And again, if you do not need to be outdoors tonight and maybe even tomorrow morning, don't do it until the snow stops, which is not expected until potentially the early afternoon tomorrow. Polo?
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Gloria Pazmino, thank you so much, and your entire team for all your reporting. You're our eyes and ears out there. And we do want to continue to follow the situation right now. They're on the ground, not just here in New York City, but other surrounding states as well. I want to go to Chris Cloninger. He's a meteorologist and climate scientist. He joins me now live from Centralville, Massachusetts on Cape Cod, right in the middle of the heart of it all, of this blizzard. Tell us, what are you seeing out there?
Follow the first few flakes. You may see them floating by the camera right now, and we have 22 hours to go. This could be the snowfall jackpot in Massachusetts. Typically, it's up around Route 128, the western Boston suburbs, but this appears to be the area that could get the most snow, with anywhere from 2 to 3 inch per hour snowfall rates. By the time this storm winds down tomorrow night at this time, we may see a total of 20 to 25 inches, Paulo. Massachusetts, that will likely see the heaviest snow with this, perhaps 20 to 30 inches. We have 22 hours to go. Now, for these storms to intensify so rapidly, we call it bombogenesis, 24 millibars in 24 hours. This thing will drop 30 millibars in 24 hours. So we're just talking about a brutal lashing along the shoreline with 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, 20 to 30 inches of snow. And Polo, this could be, as the National Weather Service said, historic and potentially devastating for parts of the shoreline here in Massachusetts.
Chris, let's offer viewers also some hope out there. Let's talk light at the end of the tunnel. What is your assessment? Tell us about when the situation could improve for so many people.
At this point, it appears tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. The great news is, unlike the storm we had in late January, where we still have the snow on the ground, which is very atypical for Cape Cod to maintain a snowpack, we'll likely see temperatures back up into the upper 30s and low 40s. So the snow that has stuck around now for about a month will likely start to melt by the end of the year, by the end of the week. Feels like a year, but it should start to melt by the end of the week. And hopefully the next storm system that affects this part of Massachusetts, Polo, will be rain, not snow at that point.
Let me tell you, here in New York, I think you were right the first time. It did feel like that snow wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. But Chris Cloninger, thank you so much. Really so happy that we could go back out to you, and do take care and stay warm.
Thanks, Polo.
All right, we now want to go to AJ Schall. He's the director of Delaware's Emergency Management Agency. AJ, thank you so much for taking the time to check in with us.
No, thank you. Good evening.
Yeah, and thank you for your patience. Now, I'm wondering if you could bring our viewers up to speed, especially there where you are. What are the areas of concern? What's the most urgently needed information, you think?
So I think right now, the forecast is coming together, right? I think we saw a little bit later of the rain to snow transition up in northern Delaware. Right now across the state, we have anywhere from really 4 to 8 inches of snow on the ground, a little bit higher down south. Our main concern right now is really the road conditions, and then secondarily the power outages. We've seen power outages in Sussex County, the coastal community area, jump in just the last about 90 minutes. We're up over about 22,000 people right now across southern Delaware. So that's very concerning. Working on getting some warming centers and shelters open for them, but it's going to be a while till the system's out of here. We're thinking it's going to snow till late morning. So really want people to stay off the road, make sure they stay safe at their home. And then, we have about 100 Guard members on duty right now across the state, assistant public safety professionals.
AJ, for those watching who aren't accustomed to this kind of weather, watching from another part of the country or the world, I mean, what leads to these power outages? Is it the kind of snow that the system is loaded with? And the winds, of course?
It's the winds and the snow right now. So it was raining in most of Delaware till late morning, early afternoon down south, then transition. So the first several hours of this snow, and it's still continuing now as the temperature's right around freezing, is a very heavy snow. So if it collects on the wires, it weighs more, they snap. Then on top of that, with the wind, with the weight, it will, provide to be very troublesome as well. The other part of that is it takes a while for the crews to get out, right? Very treacherous road conditions right now, very unsafe conditions to work. They're still trying to respond, to do the best work they can, but a lot of this stuff that will take a few hours, not only to evaluate it, but then for the restoration as well. So we need patience, but we're going to, continue to work with our county partners across the state and make sure we support them any way possible.
Yeah, patience will certainly be important in the overnight hours and tomorrow morning. And keeping that in mind, AJ, when do you think folks, especially there where you are, could expect some of those roads to be safe to navigate again, when some of these advisories will eventually expire?
Yeah, so I think we just in the last hour, we instituted a travel restriction actually a travel ban for our 2 southern counties, and then some travel restrictions up north. That means unless you're essential personnel, public safety, Department of Transportation, snowplow operators to stay off the road. We expect that to continue through, late morning at the earliest tomorrow. The wind is picked up just in the last 45 minutes, so you get the blowing snow. So as soon as you clear a road, it's covered back up a few minutes later. So we expect the snow hopefully to taper off by late morning, early afternoon in the southern part of the state, but that still needs time, several hours, if not days after that, for us to let the crews at the Department of Transportation, as well as municipalities and private contractors, to really get those roads in a safe condition again.
How unusual, AJ, is it for local and state entities to have to institute these kinds of travel advisories for a winter storm in the Northeast?
So it's not it's not uncommon, right? We did it back in January. It's not as frequent as it used to be, right? So it's been a few years, so there's been the re-education that we've had to do with individuals and companies to make sure they have the right permits in place. But earlier this year, it's been maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. Now it's 2 times in less than a month, actually a month this week that we've seen these.
Major snowstorm, you can also call it a bomb cyclone. Whatever you call it, it is now starting to make its presence known in the Northeast. Right now, tens of millions of people, they are under blizzard warnings. As much as 2 feet of snow expected to fall in some areas, and in wind gusts of up to 75 miles per hour in parts of the region. And this could make for extremely dangerous whiteout conditions. Multiple states, they already have drive bans in effect right now, likely to stay in place until tomorrow. And then, of course, there's air travel. It is just paralyzed in some parts of the country. More than 8,000 flights today already have been canceled, and there are many more that are expected to be canceled tomorrow as well. We are closely following that developing news, that breaking news, I should say, of this massive storm that is maintaining a grip on the Northeast. This powerful winter storm that is also bringing some heavy snow to much of the region. It has already led to blizzard warnings from Virginia all the way to Maine, and it's prompting school closures throughout the region tomorrow. It's also crippling transportation, both by air, some by rail. More than 5,000 flights have already been canceled for tomorrow. As you just heard in that last segment, it's important to stay as informed as you can if you're one of those passengers. Snow totals, they could reach 1.5 feet, possibly even 2 feet of snow by tomorrow in some parts of this affected area. You see the forecast accumulation there. We're joined now once again by CNN's Gloria Pazmino in New York, tracking the situation on the ground. And CNN meteorologist Chris Warren is closely following this weather system on the map. Gloria, to you first. We're about 33 minutes now into this, I would say, quite unusual travel ban. What does that look like, and what's Mayor Mamdani's goal in instituting that?
Look, Polo, the goal here is to keep as many people off the roads as possible. The streets, the highways, the bridges across New York City are all shut down to traffic with some exemptions. Essential workers, emergency workers, people are still going to be able to get around. But if you really don't need to get behind the wheel, the mayor is asking New Yorkers to avoid doing so because it is dangerous out here. We've seen a lot of the streets around us here in Columbus Circle really clear up in the last hour or so. We're still seeing some vehicles on the road. We've seen a lot of NYPD vehicles patrolling the area as well. Of course, we are now seeing consistent plows going around. The wind now significantly picking up. You could see there's the NYPD going by and a person battling this wind with their umbrella. Conditions here really just starting to deteriorate. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul has activated the National Guard. They are going to be people who may potentially need to be rescued.
Yeah, all right. Unfortunately, because of that wicked winter weather out there, that transmission taking some hits. But that last frame tells you just about everything you need to know. You see basically horizontal snow there where my colleague Gloria Pazmino was reporting from there in Midtown Manhattan as those conditions continue to deteriorate. Want to see if we can go to our weather expert. Let's go to meteorologist Chris Warren at the Weather Center. Chris, you just saw some of those live pictures from Gloria. What does that tell you when you see sideways snow? Again, this is coming from a non-expert. What does that tell you, and what does that look like on the map?
Well, first, just looking at that shot, Polo, I'm a little chilly just looking at that. And the winds are picking up. And what that tells me is that even though it is so early on in what is expected, it's going to get a lot worse. So as bad as it is now, this is just the beginning. This is the future satellite, and this is a storm that is bombing out, the bombogenesis, a bomb cyclone, as you hear. And that's the explosive development of this. The storm is going to develop so quickly. It's going to strengthen so quickly that it's like a bomb. It's like an explosion. It's a metaphor for just how fast it is going to be developing. And it's over the next few hours where it's going to be getting close to as strong as it's going to be, and it will be as strong as it's going to be in the morning, mid-morning or so, and it will remain that way until it leaves the U.S. So with Gloria's live location there where she is in New York, a Central Park and Columbus Circle, with the snow blowing around, it's only going to get worse. The snow's only going to get heavier, and the National Weather Service has blizzard warnings posted for parts of 11 states here in the Northeast. Close to 40 million people under a blizzard warning. Winter storm warnings, which are also high impact warnings the National Weather Service issues when it comes to the winter weather. That extends well into central PA, up the Hudson River Valley, southern Vermont, and New Hampshire, and a lot of Maine. Here's the snow and what's happening right now. And do you notice this? That is lightning closer to the center. Another sign that there is intensification going on. This storm is getting stronger. It is going to end up being a beast. The darker blue colors, purplish blue colors here, this is a look at the banding. So where you end up with the banding that lasts quite a while is where the snowfall totals are really going to add up. And we're seeing a lot of that right now here in Delaware, pretty much across the entire state. A little bit of purple in here. That's even heavier snow. And this is the kind of snowfall rates where a snowplow will come through, plow a street, and will need to come back a couple hours later, maybe even an hour later in some cases. And then there's these plumes like this moving into eastern Long Island. That's going to help add up, help build up those snowfall totals. Things are getting going here in some of the south towns around Boston, Rhode Island. You're in it now. Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, the Cape also in the snow, and it's going to last for most of the day tomorrow as well. Now, when we look at this, you can see some of the banding right in here, some of those stripes, if you will, or some of the waves. Those are the heavier snow showers that are expected. So I point that out to show you this. The snowfall from one model, reasonable scenario of what can happen. What's really relevant now are those bands and where it snows the longest and heaviest. So while this looks pretty uniform, it's going to be coming in pockets. So it's really how the storm now develops and evolves through time, which will determine who ends up getting the most. But you're going to be in it for quite a while here in that 95 corridor. Notice it's been snowing for the past couple of hours in many of these areas, or a few hours, depending on where you are. And by overnight tonight at 3 o'clock in the morning, still snowing. So still ongoing. Let's take it forward again. Here's now around daybreak. Here's 7 o'clock in the morning. Finally starting to come to an end here in Delaware. Still going here in southern New Jersey with the winds coming around here, coming from the east, pushing the water on shore, absolutely howling with the winds and the snow still coming down. True nor'easter, there's the low, the northeast winds coming into Boston, into Plymouth, into Duxbury, into the Cape, and by 8 o'clock tomorrow, you're still going to have a few bands there, so still snowing possibly at Logan there in Boston before it eventually kicks out. So as all those winds are blowing, those winds are pushing water on shore. So significant minor to moderate flooding is expected here from Virginia and Maryland coastal areas all the way up New Hampshire and into Maine as well. So with that, the snow that's down there, the water coming on shore, the ice, long-lived ice scenarios, not going to be as big of an issue as we've seen in some of the recent storms here in the Northeast, with daytime highs getting above the freezing mark throughout much of the week, right at the freezing mark on Tuesday, but the sun will help melt things a bit. But I'll tell you what, Polo, tonight things are going downhill in a hurry. The little saving grace is that it is tonight. It's not the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, where maybe you can catch people off guard or trying to be, you know, a little too brave in some cases, and it's going to be moving relatively quickly, even though it's going to be snowing in some areas, Polo, for hours and hours and hours.
And there are a lot of children here in New York City that is music to their ears, especially those that are getting their sleds ready for tomorrow, which is expected to be the actual first full snow day in a long time for the New York City schools. Thank you so much, as always, Chris Warren, for spelling that out for us. Thank you. We are going to continue following our breaking news situation here as the storm rages across the Northeast. A lot of people will be shoveling snow in the coming days throughout much of the Northeast, and it becomes more difficult when the snow isn't your usual powdery or fluffy snow. And you know where I'm going with this, where it's very difficult to either shovel or plow some of this stuff. It's that heavy, wet snow that's coming with this storm. It can be very dangerous, and it's called heart attack snow. And because cleaning it up puts a massive strain on the body, specifically on the heart, especially for some of those folks who may not be in big tip-top shape. CNN medical analyst Dr. Jonathan Reiner joins us now. Dr. Reiner, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Paul.
Just before we get started, just sharing some numbers with our viewers. Shoveling snow responsible for as many as 100 deaths on average each year. What can you tell us about the so-called heart attack snow? What do people need to know?
So what people need to know is basically on behalf of my brother and sister cardiologists up and down the East Coast, if you have a history of heart disease, or if you have hypertension or diabetes, or basically if you're over 50 and just out of shape, don't shovel snow. Pay the kid down the street to do it. Support your neighborhood economy. Pay somebody else to do it. Shoveling snow is an enormous amount of exercise. It's both aerobic exercise and isotonic exercise, and you're doing it basically not in a refrigerator like Rocky. You're doing it in a freezer. And those very low temperatures basically create a situation where your arteries constrict in the periphery, which raises your blood pressure, and the arteries around your heart constrict, and that sort of decreases the supply to your heart, and you create this supply-demand mismatch. And if you're at risk of heart disease, or you've had a stent in the past, or a heart attack, or bypass surgery, you can provoke an acute coronary event like a heart attack. You mentioned about 100 people die every year shoveling snow. In the last storm 1 month ago, I went in during the storm. I was on call to take care of somebody who was actively having a heart attack. And a couple of thousand people in the United States probably have a heart attack every year as a consequence of shoveling. So if you can avoid it and you have any of those risk factors that I mentioned, don't shovel.
And it's really important, and I'm especially glad that you mentioned those who know that they have a history of heart disease or heart illness. What about those, though, who may have one and not even know it? Are there any specific signs or symptoms that people should be on the lookout for when they're shoveling snow, that they should take a break?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So as you said, sort of the wet snow, which basically we get when the temperatures are not as cold as they were a month ago, that wet snow is heavily laden with water. And this wet snow can basically weigh 4 times as much as sort of the dry powder that you can get in some of the Western ski resorts. And lifting that is a shocking amount of exercise. A person who's not well trained shoveling snow for 2 minutes can get their heart rate up to about 85% of their maximal predicted heart rate, which would be basically the heart rate that you would achieve if you were being chased by a tiger. So that's in 2 minutes. So it's basically in a very severe stress test. So symptoms that you would have would be shortness of breath, very fast heartbeat. Maybe you start sweating. Maybe you start to get a little bit dizzy. And if you have any symptoms shoveling snow, it's time to stop. The other thing I'll mention is that it's easier to push the snow than it is to lift it. Also, take breaks when you're doing it. If you're expected to get a lot of snow, don't wait to shovel until you have 2 feet. Do this in several batches. And again, if you have any doubt, pay somebody else to do it.
You answered my next 2 questions, Dr. Jonathan Reiner. As always, we really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
Powerful winter storm that is strengthening tonight in the Northeast as we speak. And if you had travel plans for this part of the country, you may as well forget about it. More than 5,000 flights have already been canceled for tomorrow. New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, all under blizzard warnings as the storm continues to intensify in the coming hours. It's expected to bring up to 1.5 feet of snow in many areas, and possibly even 2 feet of snow for some parts of the affected region. And New Jersey just announcing a statewide travel ban, as at this hour here in New York City, a similar ban also kicks into place. Let's go now to CNN meteorologist Chris Warren, who's live at the CNN Weather Center, following this very closely, guiding us through all of this. Chris, all right, what do people need to know right now about where the impacts are and also where they will be in the coming hours and tomorrow morning?
Paul, I'll tell you what, a lot of people will say just simply, well, how bad is it going to be, right? Not necessarily, how much snow, how long it's going to last, just how bad is it going to be? Well, the National Weather Service has this to answer that question for you. And these are the winter storm impacts. So with the winter storm out there, how bad is it going to be? What are the impacts going to be like? Well, minor in the yellow, moderate in orange, but the extent of the red and the purple over the megapolis here in the Northeast, the I-95 corridor, major impacts expected from Virginia, Maryland, all the way up to eastern Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, New York, a lot of New York, all of Long Island, and all the way up to coastal areas in Maine in that major winter storm impact range. Extreme impacts. Now we're talking where there's going to be power outages, dangerous travel, if not life-threatening travel. And this includes also heavily populated areas here, millions of people under this, all because of what will be a bomb cyclone. When we're talking about a bomb cyclone, it's explosive development. And we measure these systems in millibars. So you get 24-hour millibar drop. Dropping pressure is increasing winds and strengthening storm. You get a 24 millibar drop within 24 hours, and it bombs out. And within the next several hours, leading up to about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, most of that is going to happen. So this is going to be one heck of a beast of a storm by morning as it continues to move across the East Coast with blizzard warnings here from the Delmarva. So we're talking parts of 11 states here in the Northeast. Close to 40 million people in blizzard warnings here, including the entire state of Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, but stretching all the way up to the Canadian border in Maine in the coastal areas. Well, I'll take a moment and show you what's happening right now in terms of where the heaviest snow is falling at the moment. The darker the purple, the heavier the snow. Green is rain, and we're seeing that rain change over to purple, changing over to snow. So these bands right in here. When we show you the maps of how much snow is expected, it's never uniform. You'll have pockets that end up with a lot more snow than other areas. So with that, it's because of this. You see they're bands essentially, and when those bands stall out and they hang out in the same spot, that's when it really accumulates, and it's to the point where plows, they got to keep making passes because they'll go make a pass and then they'll need it another couple of hours. They'll need to come by again, and that's another reason why it's so dangerous to be on the roads. Thankfully, most of the heaviest of snow and strongest winds are happening at night, but hopefully everybody's at home in a safe spot. This is New York. Here's Philadelphia. Again, these bands, like a wave here of heavy snow. And then this plume out here, been watching this. When you see the dark purple coming, there's a lot here and a lot here, and they're all kind of going like a train on a track here, one after another. That's a spot to look for some healthy snowfall totals here by morning. And then it's going to take a while here in eastern Massachusetts. Not quite snowing in Boston yet, maybe a few flurries. But once it gets going, it's going to be going throughout most of the day. Also some lightning showing up, an indication of just how intense this system is. Widespread areas could see a foot or more. Can't rule out 2 feet of snow in some areas. The timing for this, 2 o'clock in the morning, still snowing, still windy. 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, still going full-on nor'easter mode here. Winds coming out of the northeast, hammering Plymouth, hammering Boston, the Cape, the islands, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and then it moves out with lingering showers with these temperatures right around the freezing mark. It's heavy, wet snow likely to lead to power outages. But Polo, unlike some of the past events, temperatures during the day will be getting back above the freezing mark. So not looking for that big, deep freeze here in New York.
You know, it cannot be stressed enough, just the paralyzing potential of this storm when you see just how massive it is, and then just how many states, how many rail systems, how many airports. It could be a very disruptive Monday. Thank you so much, Chris Warren, for walking us through all that. We'll check back with you. We also want to go back to our colleague, Gloria Pazmino, who has been covering, she and her team, for hours, this storm, speaking to people on the ground. Gloria, we're 4 minutes into Mayor Mamdani's travel ban here, hoping to keep people safe. I don't see anybody behind you. Does it seem like it's making a difference?
We'll see, Polo, over the next few minutes, now that the travel ban is officially in place, now that we're past the 9 o'clock hour. It has gotten more and more desolate here outside of Central Park, but we're still seeing some people on foot who are walking around trying to, you know, take in the conditions. But I can tell you everything that Chris just described, we are certainly feeling here. It is very windy, the snow is steadily falling, and it is also very cold. Not as cold as the last winter storm we had about a month ago, which makes it all a little bit more bearable, but it is extremely windy, and we are expecting to see a lot of snow accumulation, at least 1.5 feet. That could be history-making storm for New York City. We haven't had a blizzard warning here in the city since 2017. So we are on our way to potentially a storm that will get into the history books of New York City. Now, I want you to listen to New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani talking about this travel ban earlier today and why it's so important. Take a listen.
We are declaring a state of emergency and instituting a travel ban starting at 9 p.m. this evening and ending at 12 p.m. tomorrow. This state of emergency closes the streets, highways, and bridges of New York City for all traffic, cars, trucks, scooters, and e-bikes, with some specific exemptions for essential and emergency movement. We are asking New Yorkers to avoid all non-essential travel. Please, for your safety, stay home, stay inside, and stay off the roads.
Now, Paulo, in the last hour or so, we have we've seen a significant increase of snowplows on city streets. There's more than 2,200 pieces of equipment that have been deployed, 2,600 sanitation workers working 12-hour shifts from tonight into tomorrow morning. The travel ban will be lifted at noon, and that's likely when much of this cleanup is going to get started. Paulo?
And then how about the impacts, too, for people who may think that it's possible to either take a train or a plane into the tri-state area? I mean, do you get a sense from what you're hearing from officials that essentially this storm is paralyzing many of those transportation means for now?
Yes. If you do have to go somewhere right now in New York City, the subway is likely your best bet, although everything is running on a delayed schedule, on a weekend schedule. The other train systems, New Jersey Transit, Long Island Railroad, MTA, all of them also running on a modified schedule. Certainly check your line. There are some lines that are more affected because of their exposure. And the ferry here in New York City has been suspended. So although public transportation is operating, and that is the best way to get around, if you have to go somewhere, you should definitely check schedules because everything is pretty much operating on a limited schedule.
It is such an important note. People from around the world often find themselves here in New York City, and that's information they certainly need to know. Gloria Pesmino, again, thank you and your team for that live report. Right now, every single home, road, and business in the entire state of Connecticut, it is under a blizzard warning. I want to go live now to Mystic, Connecticut. Valerie Maravi, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Want to go there now from our affiliate WTIC is there. Listen, the least I can do is pronounce your name correctly. I'm so sorry about that, but I'm wondering if you could just bring us up to speed on what the situation is like for you there.
Well, the situation has been changing constantly in the last few minutes, and we've been actually here for the 15 minutes, and that's just when the snow was coming down smoothly. But right now it's heavier, and as you can see, all the snow on my hair, so this is not the day to look cute or pretty. I'm just out here to do my job, so we'll deal with that. We'll deal with how beautiful looks out here, but I just want to give you a perspective of what actually looks like. We've been here since 3:30 this afternoon, so definitely the accumulation of the snow, it's been pretty visible. And as you can see right now, it is still soft, it's still nice, but out here, if you can just take a look at this way, it's building up. The trees look beautiful, but again, it's still dangerous to be out there. People are completely off the roads, and that's what it was supposed to be, right? We spoke to several neighbors. We spoke to travelers around here who wanted to just stay at a local hotel and just basically stay the night, and some of them taking off work and just take the day to relax and enjoy themselves as well. As you can see, the parking lot is pretty packed right now, and they're completely covered in this beautiful snow, and that is just being in the last hour when it's been coming down heavier than usual. And again, just to remind everybody, local officials reminding and urging people to stay home, and it's still a state of emergency, you guys. So let's just make sure to stay home and stay safe. Back to you guys.
No, it's such an important recommendation, Valerie. You know, you're in Connecticut. Other people in other parts of the country may be watching this and say, well, no, it snows in the Northeast. It's not unusual. Speak to the extraordinary nature of this particular storm. What are you hearing from officials about why it's different this time around?
Well, it is different from last time. We just had a couple weeks ago where the snow was still smooth and it wasn't as strong winds. Right now, the winds are picking up pretty quickly, and it's supposed to be like this time. Stronger winds, heavier snow than usual, and we're expecting at least 15 inches of snow this time or more. But this time, definitely, you're gonna notice the change in the weather, and the cold is gonna last longer, and people might expect some power outages as well, which we didn't have to deal with that in the last storm.
Our thanks to Valerie Moravi and her team been reporting on this storm. Thank you so much, Valerie, for showing us around there in Mystic, Connecticut. Stay safe, stay warm. You guys look great out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now joined by the governor of Connecticut. I want to go now to Ned Lamont. Governor, thank you so much for taking the time, by the way. I know it's been a very busy last few days preparing for tonight and potentially the coming days with what we could see following the storm. Can you bring our viewers up to speed on what you're seeing right now and what information people need to know, especially there in the state of Connecticut?
Yeah, Polo, as you just heard from Valerie, this is a wicked nor'easter. Probably the worst we've seen in 10 years or so. As you heard from Valerie, this snow is much heavier than we're used to. And also the winds are much stronger, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. You put that combination together, it's tougher to plow the roads. Some of the limbs on the trees get heavy, the limbs break, they take down electricity. So Eversource and UI, our utilities, have hundreds of vehicles poised, ready to respond. And DOT, our Department of Transportation, has about 700 plows out there right now going nonstop.
Governor, you declared an emergency declaration, or at least issued an emergency order, I should say, as well as a travel ban. Are people staying off the roads?
They are. They're staying off the roads. We said it's a ban on, commercial vehicles and even the cars, the passenger cars. People are really good. This is not our first storm here. It's really important. The plows cannot get to work if some guy skids out on I-95, and that can slow everything up for hours. So thank you to people and vehicles all over the region. Thank you for staying out of your cars for a while.
Governor, how unusual is it for state, local officials to issue these kinds of advisories in hopes of making sure that people stay as safe as possible, these travel bans?
One of the things you have to do is work in collaboration with your neighboring states. It doesn't do any good for Connecticut to say no commercial vehicles if New York and Massachusetts and Rhode Island have different rules. So we collaborated very closely on this, speak with one voice. That's particularly important, and people are following the lead. And I know people are going to get frustrated and lose patience in 24 hours. Give our folks time to get the roads cleared. You need the roads cleared so we can get to the downed power wires and take care of them.
You've dealt with many a snowstorm in the past, particularly in your role as governor, and plenty of blizzards as well. I wonder if there's anything that really stands out about this current weather event, Governor.
I worry about electricity. Unlike, say, New York City, where most of the power lines are underground, given the nature of the urban environment, most of ours are above ground, on telephone poles, trees hanging over, wet snow, freezing, falling, and electricity goes out. And we're being very careful to make sure that people have their phones powered up, their laptops powered up. If they have a telephone line, all the better. Contact, your elderly or frail neighbors, make sure they're taken care of as well. It's going to be a very fragile time. Obviously hospitals and nursing homes, big priorities for us. They generally have generators, but when they run out, we've got to make sure we have power for them.
Governor, obviously what we're hearing from experts is that the worst is still ahead for so many parts of the Northeast. Once everything is said and done, how long do you think it could potentially take for all those incredible teams out there that are on the streets plowing away to make those roads passable again and for people to feel safe going back out again?
Depending on how long and how fast the snow goes, I think in 24 hours we'll have all of our major arteries cleaned up, assuming the snow stops in the next 14 hours or so. Some of the side roads and smaller roads may take a little time. Then the problem is electricity. And obviously you go for the major substations first to take care of the bulk of the people. But some of the folks at the end of a road, maybe only 2 or 3 houses, that may take 2 or 3 days.
I'm wondering if maybe there's any other recent update that you've received from your Emergency Operations Center that you'd like to share with viewers who are tracking the storm along with you.
I think basically if power goes out, you can call 211. We'll tell you where the closest warming center is. Check in on your neighbors, make sure they're safe as well. I think those are big priorities, but basically I know you're going to get a little frustrated as time goes on. Stay out of your car, stay off the roads, let our plows do their job, then let the utilities take care of the electricity.
It is a good night to fire up the oven and maybe make a nice Connecticut pizza tonight, Governor. Thank you so much, as always, for your time, for your updates, and wish you and everybody in the state of Connecticut the best tonight.
Thanks for displaying the information. Thanks, Paulo.
And we are back with a major snowstorm that's hitting millions of people in the Northeast. It's now intensifying, and it could bring a foot of snow, potentially even a foot and a half in some parts of the Northeast. Places including New York City, the state of Philadelphia, Boston, all under blizzard warnings at this hour. And schools, many schools, are closed tomorrow. Travel also being restricted throughout much of the Northeast, including here in New York City. CNN's Gloria Pazmino is in New York for us, as well as meteorologist Chris Warren. He's standing by at the CNN Weather Center, tracking this massive cyclone, especially when you see it there on that map. Chris, let's go to you first. I'm wondering if you could just walk us through what we could expect in the coming hours, and especially Monday morning. What can we expect from the system?
Well, this system, Paul, is still going, right? It's still getting going, I should say, and it is about to go in a big way. What I mean by that is this rapid strengthening, or that bombing out, becoming a bomb cyclone. That's in reference to just how fast it develops. It's like explosive development, and most of that is going to be happening between now and about 1 o'clock in the morning, and then it will be at its strongest throughout the day tomorrow. That's what this is showing us, the forecast satellite. And when it gets that more symmetrical look to it, that's when it is going to be at its strongest, like right there, like in the morning throughout the day as it passes by the U.S. Now, with all that in mind, the strength of that is important because that means there's going to be some very strong winds associated with it. And already, think about this. It is just getting going. And what we're going to see here in New York in a moment, what we've been seeing throughout the Northeast, that snow is really coming down. It's heavy, wet snow. It's sticking to a lot of stuff. And the winds have really yet to kick in. That's going to happen. And with that, the significance of this, the extent of the blizzard warnings from Virginia here in the Delmarva, all the way up, parts of 11 states have a blizzard warning. The entire state of Delaware, the entire state of New Jersey, and Connecticut, and Rhode Island, and most of Massachusetts under blizzard warnings. Now, winter storm warnings is big enough of a deal, but you throw in the wind and the blizzard warnings, dangerous, very treacherous, if not life-threatening travel conditions overnight and into early tomorrow for many areas. See these little flashes out here? Right in there? That's lightning. So that's another sign that this is strengthening. This is an intensifying system. When you look at the purple on the map, this is the snow that's falling right now. Green's rain, but the purple snow. So we're changing over to snow. Some areas start out as rain. Darker purple is where the heavier snow is right now. And while there could be, a foot, half a foot, or a foot and a half, or even 2 feet in some areas, it's really going to depend on where these bands set up. And I can show you one of those bands right here. You can kind of see it, a little bit of almost like a little bit of a plume right here of heavier snow. So what happens when that comes closer, you get the heavier snow. In this case, it'll be over eastern Long Island. It'll set up and just absolutely crush with snow, possibly for hours. That's why we'll get pockets that could see several inches more than some neighbors. So expecting still to see the significant snowfall here with the amount of snow, again, could be widespread, 8 to 12 inches. So a foot and a half to even 2 feet in localized areas. Part of the reason why eastern Massachusetts is going to see more is because you're going to have snow longer. You're going to be in the snow now, going to be in the snow for several hours. This is in the morning at 7. See, right here is the center of the low. Strong winds, the northeasterly winds, nor'easter, will be with us. These temperatures right around the freezing mark. When the temperatures around the freezing mark, there's like partially melted snowflakes coming down, just very, very small. And the snowflakes will start to stick to each other. So they're very big. They'll also stick to other stuff. This is where, when I say stuff, it could be anything, trees, sides of trees. It's like a plaster, a splattering of snow everywhere, very sticky snow. It'll weigh down branches, weigh down power lines. That with the wind likely leading to power outages. Already seeing some power outages out there, likely to see more. This is tomorrow evening. Still some snow, the Cape and the islands here before that low finally kicks out of here. On top of all of that, the water, the ocean being pushed onshore because of the winds are blowing toward the ocean. So minor to moderate flooding expected, which will be significant in its extent. Also, the extent of winter storm impacts, just another way of looking at just how big of a deal this is going to be. The National Weather Service putting this out. Major impacts, Polo, expected in red right here. And then also extreme impacts, including almost the entirety of Long Island.
You look at some of these cameras that we have throughout the region, and that speaks volumes. But then when you see it on the map and the sheer size of this system, Chris, it's certainly just impressive. Almost looks like a hurricane. Hence the expectations of potential Category 1 hurricane level winds. And that tells you everything you need to know. Chris, stand by for me. I want to go back out to my colleague, Gloria Pazmino. She and her team have been out in the middle of it all here in New York City, following the situation there as it continues to deteriorate. I know it is not easy out there, Gloria, but I'm wondering if you could just give us a sense of what's happening out there. And about 20 minutes before this travel ban is in place in a city of 8.5 million people, what could that look like?
Yeah, Polo, we're less than a half an hour away from the travel ban, which is set to be in at 9 o'clock this evening. And as you said, it is significant for the city of New York to ask people to stay off the roads and to institute that ban announced earlier today by New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. He is asking all non-essential workers, non-essential drivers, if you do not have an emergency, if you're not trying to get to a essential job, do not get behind the wheel. And that's not just because this is going to be a dangerous storm creating dangerous conditions on streets and highways, but because there's going to be sanitation workers that are out trying to get the streets plowed and trying to get the snow cleaned in the next several hours as more and more accumulates. So the streets, the bridges, the highways are all going to be shut down as of 9 o'clock to traffic. Now, there will be some exemptions. Some public transportation will still be operating. Emergency workers, essential workers will be allowed to be on the road. But again, the idea is to minimize traffic as much as possible. And I can tell you that having been out here since early this afternoon, we have significantly seen the crowds dwindle, especially now that the sun has gone down, that it's starting to get very cold, and the wind is starting to significantly pick up. I have to tell you, my crew here, I have Maria and Chandler holding on to our equipment for dear life because it is so windy. So the next few hours, conditions will significantly deteriorate. I also just want to mention Governor Kathy Hochul has activated the National Guard. They will be spread out across the state, helping for people who may be stuck in their cars. Some traffic accidents expected to happen over the next several hours. So that's why it's so important for people to just avoid travel if you can. Also very important going into tomorrow morning, Polo, schools will be closed. Very good news for 1 million students here in New York City who haven't had a full-blown snow day for years now. In fact, since 2019 was when they had the last full-blown snow day. They've been doing remote learning. But not tomorrow. They will be able to play in the snow, go out in the snow, and have a proper snow day. So that was certainly very good news for city students. I also want to mention, Polo, one thing that we are very closely tracking is how the city is going to handle vulnerable New Yorkers, homeless New Yorkers. The last time we had a storm, which was just less than a month ago, it was extremely cold, extremely dangerous. As a result of that storm, 19 people died. Many of them were outside, were homeless New Yorkers. And the mayor has gotten a lot of criticism for how the city handled that storm after the initial days post cleanup. So the city ramping up resources, increasing warming centers, deploying outreach workers to make sure that people are not outside and those who are can be brought in. The city is in a code blue right now, which means that obviously it's extremely cold, very dangerous, but it also means that shelter requirements are loosened and anyone who needs shelter can have access to it. So the next several hours, we expect things here to significantly deteriorate. As I said, the mayor asking New Yorkers to stay off the roads. Public transportation operating on a limited schedule. We know that thousands of flights have been canceled. The train system, New Jersey Transit, the MTA, the Long Island Railroad, all operating on limited schedule over the next several hours into tomorrow, which of course is going to make for a very messy commute. A lot of people who do not have to go into the office in person will likely not be doing so tomorrow morning. Polo?
Yeah, and really just emphasizing that point you just made. This will be a true test for New York City's new mayor, Mayor Mamdani there, especially the questions surrounding the follow-up cleanup process and, of course, other questions after the last storm event that you mentioned. So his actions will certainly be watched very closely. Gloria Pesmino, Chandler, Maria, all of you out there, thank you so much. Stay warm. Stay safe. And again, this as reports are already coming in of some power outages in neighboring New Jersey, really just highlighting what has been a major concern for top city, local, state, even federal officials that are closely monitoring the situation in the Northeast because in some parts of the country are experiencing really more of that heavier snow combined with heavy winds, then that does spell out the potential of power outages. So utility crews are certainly fanned out throughout the region and ready to respond when they're able to, when conditions are safe enough to do so. We do want to turn now to Rhode Island, which is one of the many states that's feeling the impact of this massive bomb cyclone, where the National Weather Service is predicting that wind gusts, they could likely reach Category 1 hurricane strength. And that is one of the reasons why authorities are so concerned, especially when you factor in the winds, plus some significant some pretty significant snow amounts that are predicted to reach anywhere from 18 to 25 inches in some areas. And that, many authorities would agree, is a recipe for power outages. With us now, we do want to go now to the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, Mayor Brett Smiley. Mayor, thank you so much for taking some time to join us and bring our viewers up to speed.
Thank you.
So we saw that the Rhode Island State Police, they have put this travel ban in effect. Just can you bring us up to speed on what that means and how long you expect those measures to remain in place?
So the first snowflakes in Providence started falling maybe 45 minutes ago. The travel ban went in place at 7. And so I think some of our neighbors are saying, why is this necessary? But we know that there is major weather coming our way. And so the governor issued a state of emergency and a full statewide travel ban starting at 7. That is for the safety of our neighbors, and it will also help us do a better job of snow removal and getting the state and city back open sooner. And so what folks here need to know is that we're serious. We need you off the streets. This is a very serious storm. The worst of it for us will come overnight tonight, starting at maybe 2 or 3 a.m. But it is, as you point out, hurricane force winds and the worst blizzard that's been forecasted here, at least for over a decade.
Mayor, living in the Northeast, there's always or often this sense of a team effort to try to make it through these storms, and that there's really quite a bit of responsibility, especially for citizens, to make sure that the streets are clear so that snow plows can essentially do what they have to do. You made it clear earlier today the importance of people honoring a parking ban there in Providence, something that we've also seen in other parts of the region here. Did people listen, or have your crews been really having to take some steps to make sure that those roads are clear so your plows can then do what they have to do?
Yeah, many of our neighbors are helping and complying, which is great. They're moving their cars to designated off-street parking locations, but there are still a lot of cars left on the street, and so we are actively ticketing and towing. We've towed a couple hundred cars already, and we're going to continue to do so. And that's expensive and burdensome for the vehicle owner. But in a historic city like Providence, and it's true of many New England cities, we have narrow streets,
that when there are cars parked on the street, the plows simply cannot get down the street. And so all it takes is one car left on the street that can cause the plow to have to skip your street. And so we've had to get pretty aggressive, and I don't like being punitive like that, but it's the only way that we can fairly deliver services for all of our residents. And so we've really stepped up our efforts in this storm. As you know, this is just the latest. It's been a tough winter, and we still have snow on the ground from the last several storms. But given the severity and impact of this storm, we're taking it very seriously.
Without a doubt, the Northeast certainly used to snow this time of year, but I wonder if you could give our viewers in other parts of the world, especially those not accustomed to this kind of weather, just how unusual this system is when you hear from some of the weather experts that you've been in contact with the last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, and we would get a 4 to 5 inch storm somewhat regularly throughout the winter. We handle those rather routinely. We got about 16 or 18 inches a month ago in January, which was significant, but it did not have the winds that accompany this. And so in the overnight hours here in Providence tonight, we're anticipating snowfall rates of 2 to 3 inches an hour. That is whiteout conditions. So our plow drivers will actually pull over to the side of the road for their own safety. They won't be able to see in front of them, in front of their own trucks. Visibility will be down to almost zero. And so we're expecting anywhere from 16 to 24 inches of accumulation. But then when you have 50 or 60 mile an hour winds, you'll also have snow drifts. And so there'll be some places that will look not quite as bad, and then places with 2 or 3 feet snow drifts because it'll blow that much. And so the final piece that's a complication here, you pointed it out a bit earlier, is power outages. Our statewide power utility estimates that there could be 100 to 150,000 power outages. There's only 1 million people in Rhode Island. And that's 100 and 150,000 households. So that is a significant potential impact to the power grid here. And so in addition to all the snow removal focus, we also have emergency warming centers and shelters on standby should we have widespread outages here in the city.
So you have the potential for power outages, certainly those whiteout conditions that are on the horizon, especially in the overnight hours that you mentioned, Mayor. What else is really one of your biggest concerns as this bomb cyclone continues to bear down on your region and other neighboring communities?
Well, after we get through the height of the storm, it's really not supposed to stop snowing until Monday night, tomorrow night. Cleanup is going to take a little while. In the midst of that cleanup, we know kids are going to start to get anxious. Parents are going to get anxious about going to work. And so we're already planning for the cleanup efforts and for what is expected to be a multi-day cleanup. And so the disruption is not just going to be for the next 24 hours. It's going to persist for much of this week.
What would be your main statement, your recommendation and advice to not just the residents in Providence, but also in other affected regions as they are hopefully watching this from the warmth and comfort of their homes?
Yeah. Well, for anyone in the Northeast that's about to get hit, please follow the advice of the public safety officials in your community, and here in Providence, do the same. This really will not be safe to be out on the roads, and we know that there are people who think that maybe they'll be just fine, but this is really dangerous travel conditions, and so we're first and foremost concerned about your safety. Secondly, and you hinted at this earlier, this is a tight-knit community, and so many of our cities in the Northeast and in New England are this way. Check in on your neighbors, check in on your loved ones, anyone who you think has mobility issues, underlying health conditions. Here in Providence, homeowners and property owners are expected to clear their own sidewalks. If you know your neighbor can't do that, be neighborly, give them a hand. It is the best part of our community is when we come together to help one another out. And there's no time that's more appreciated than a moment like this. And so if you've got kids in the house, send them out to go shovel the neighbor to maybe lessen the burden for just a little bit through what is the tail end, we hope, of a hard winter.
That is a great note to end on here. We'll let you go. Again, Mayor Brett Smiley from Providence bringing us up to speed on the situation on the ground. I wish you and your community the best. We know it's a very resilient place, and we'll keep checking back with you. Thank you. Our New York affiliate is also on the ground in the elements. Rebecca Green with Spectrum News 1 joining us now live here on CNN. Rebecca, you're in Brooklyn right now. Curious what the situation is like there. We see some plowing activity happening.
Yes, definitely. It is quite literally snowing sideways here in Brooklyn. We're just right next to the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, a major throughway here in New York City. And we are seeing cars fill up their gas tanks ahead of what will be an incredibly heavy blizzard that we are expecting here in New York City. I managed to pack a snowball for you to show you just how much snow is falling, several inches at this hour. And this is just the beginning. It's expected to get a lot worse. And, you know, this is not the first snow that we've seen so far this winter season here in New York City. We have seen quite a lot of snow. Many New Yorkers were completely over it. They wanted spring to come, but that is simply not the case. There is a state of emergency in effect now here in New York City. No cars are allowed to travel starting at 9 p.m. They're urged to stay off the roads to ensure that safety vehicles can do their job and make sure that the streets are clear from all that snow, attend to people if there are any emergencies. So New Yorkers are definitely preparing for this.
No, and I think you hit on a really important point. I mean, you and I and the rest of the people who live in New York, we experienced absolutely frigid conditions back in January. Is there a sense that obviously at least the temperatures won't necessarily be as big an issue this time around when you compare the last winter storm we experienced here?
Oh, 100%. We're actually in a much better situation this time than we were just a few weeks ago, the last time we saw really significant snowfall, because last time it was so much colder. It was below freezing every single day for weeks leading up to that snowstorm. Luckily, we have had some nicer days by comparison, right? Some days in the 40s. So the ground simply isn't as frozen. So what we're hearing is that even though we're expected to see twice as much snow, it may take half the amount of time for the snow to melt simply because the ground isn't nearly as frozen as it was about a month ago.
And then, of course, there's the decision for New York City schools to make it an all-out snow day tomorrow. I mean, how are people, especially parents and children, I mean, what can you expect from them come Monday morning?
I mean, a lot of kids are definitely happy about this news. This is something that they were hoping for the last time we saw that snowstorm here in New York. They are finally getting it, and it is just because it is simply too dangerous to travel anywhere. It's too dangerous for school buses, and we don't really know what sort of state the subway is going to be in when we wake up in the morning. So this is definitely a smart move to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible. And also, this is good news for people who may need a warming center, because there will be 13 different schools that will be open across the city tomorrow as warming centers for people. We're also seeing about 10 or 11 warming centers at New York City Health and Hospital locations across the city. And we're also going to have 22 warming buses roaming the streets of the city. So this is all good news for people who may not have easy access to somewhere warm and safe during these really hazardous conditions.
And Rebecca, before I let you go, I'm wondering if you could just really underscore what we've seen from New York City officials and this travel ban that's expected to kick in what, about 30 minutes. I mean, the message that the mayor is essentially issuing the millions of people who live in New York and effectively discouraging any non-essential activity from tonight until tomorrow afternoon. I mean, that's a decision that New York City's new mayor probably did not take very lightly.
100%. This is not an easy decision for the mayor to make, especially because it makes everything more difficult for everyone else who assumes that they're going to go to work in the morning. But also, this is the right move because of how hazardous it is out on the streets at this hour. We do know that we have hundreds of sanitation trucks working overtime, thousands of sanitation workers clearing the streets, hundreds of salt spreaders working to make sure that people can walk safely if they do need to leave their homes. But the mayor is saying, do not leave your house if you don't have to. That is why we saw so many people going to supermarkets, going to gas stations, filling up their cars to ensure that they are able to go once the snow starts to clear after tomorrow. But he does not take the situation lightly. As you mentioned, in about 30 minutes, that state of emergency, that travel ban goes into effect, and it will remain in effect until at least noon tomorrow. But things could be a lot worse. We also heard from Governor Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York State, who is also giving critical updates on transit, because at this hour, we believe that the subway will be operating as normal, but we're also already seeing that some key transportation that we use every single day here in New York City will not be running tomorrow. That includes the ferry as well as the Long Island Railroad. So a lot of changes for New Yorkers. That's why everyone is encouraged to stay inside.
Tonight, much of the Northeast, it is hunkering down for what could be one of the biggest snowstorms to hit the region, possibly in years. The storm, it's now intensifying, and it's expected to bring heavy snow throughout the night and also into tomorrow. Just check out these pictures coming in from Midtown Manhattan. 1 to 2 feet of snow expected in many areas. Schools expected to be closed tomorrow throughout the region, and New York City, it's imposing a citywide travel ban that's expected to kick in the next hour. Public transportation in New Jersey, that's been shut down. Let's get you some eyes on the ground now and head live to CNN's Gloria Pazmino, who is in New York. Gloria, it's great to see you. I know you and your team have been out there throughout the night as these conditions continue to deteriorate. What are you seeing now?
That's right. And I can tell you that in the last hour or so, the most significant change I've seen here outside of Central Park is that we've started to see the snow plows come out, which means that officially we have at least 2 inches of accumulation on the ground. That's when the plows start to make their way around the city. More than 2,000 pieces of equipment have been deployed to deal with this potentially historic winter storm. Around 2,600 sanitation workers working 12-hour shifts. Tonight into tomorrow morning, a travel ban is going to be in effect starting at 9 o'clock this evening. It will lift on Monday around at noon, and that means that all non-essential travel is banned. The mayor, Zohran Mamdani, asking people to stay off the roads, not only because it's dangerous, but because he wants the streets to be cleared so that snowplows and emergency vehicles can get by. Now, throughout the earlier hours today, we spoke to a lot of people who were kind of taking it all in stride, trying to enjoy the beautiful snow as it was falling. Of course, as we get later and later into the evening, it will get colder and those blizzard conditions are really going to be felt. But some people were looking forward to it. Take a listen.
We did some snow angels, even though we're 23.
Yeah.
Built some snowman. It's time to be a kid again.
It's fun. It's like being a kid again. We're throwing snowballs at each other, sliding down the hills, building snowman. Like, it's really, really fun.
I really like the views. Really nice scenery. Take some good pictures.
Yeah.
It is cold, but it's bearable. Stockpile all the necessities, food, drinks, like that. Probably just stay in, watch movies, little guys' night, and just have some fun.
Now, also important to mention, for Monday, schools will be closed. New York City has the largest school district in the nation. That means over 1 million school kids will be looking forward to a full-blown snow day. For the past few years, they've had remote learning days. That will be canceled tomorrow. They will have a full-fledged snow day, no classes, no remote learning. Very important. And as I said, the mayor really asking New Yorkers to stay off the road, and also keeping an eye on vulnerable New Yorkers, those who may be outside, homeless New Yorkers. The city making sure that those who are outside can be brought in. They have significantly ramped up resources to make sure that people who are vulnerable can take shelter.
Without a doubt, that is priority number one, the safety. Well, children certainly very happy about tomorrow. Gloria Pazmino, thank you for that live report. We do want to turn now to a weather expert who is tracking the storm very closely. We want to go now to Owen Shea. He's the warning coordination meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Thank you so much for joining us, Owen. We know that you've been very busy tracking the situation right now. Just off the top, how do you see the storm developing tonight into tomorrow? What do millions of people need to know right now?
The storm is certainly ramping up tonight. A lot of the rain that was present throughout the East Coast has transitioned into snow. And so the snow rates will only increase as the night progresses. And tonight we've got 41 million Americans under blizzard warnings extending from the mid-Atlantic all the way up through southern New England.
Obviously, we're still experiencing winter conditions throughout the region here. I'm curious, though, if you could just add some context by using your expertise here. There's a huge area that's currently under blizzard warning from parts of Virginia, really all the way up to Maine. How unusual is it to see such a wide swath currently under some form of winter-related warning?
So a nor'easter type storm is not unusual for this part of the country, but we have lucked out over the last several years. New York hasn't had a blizzard warning like this since 2017, and Boston hasn't had one like this since 2022. And so we've lucked out over the last few years, but this classic storm, although it's pretty typical, is pretty high in magnitude. And so we're expecting fairly high amounts of snow. But within the context of this season, one thing I'd like to emphasize for the viewers is that unlike the large major storm that occurred in late January, this one, ice will be less of a problem. It'll be more focused along the coast, as well as the I-95 corridor, and heavy snow, as well as high winds will be the bigger problem. And the snow itself, because it's warmer, will be that heavier, wetter snow that just sticks. And so that means more down power lines when you add in the high winds, and then also heavier snow to shovel. And so word of caution for those who have to shovel their driveways, please don't overexert yourselves.
And then there's also the question of visibility. I mean, as you're speaking right now, we're showing a live EarthCam picture from high atop the Statue of Liberty. And you can see essentially how thick some of these snow bands are at the moment. So what is your advice for people who, again, it is strongly recommended by authorities that they simply stay put, stay where they are, especially through the night. For anybody who perhaps needs to get to work during the overnight hours, I mean, what makes these blizzard-like conditions different when you compare it to other weather events this season?
Excellent question. When it comes to blizzards, believe it or not, the definition is actually more tied to stronger winds. So you can get snow that's not super heavy, but the winds are really strong, and that can give you blizzard conditions. And so really that visibility is what is going to distinguish the storm compared to the last one. So the limited visibility will make travel extremely treacherous. So highly recommend against traveling unless it's only for emergency purposes. And for those who must go on the roads to travel for emergency purposes, definitely keep a winter weather survival kit in the car. And if you happen to be stranded, don't roam away from the car. Stay close by to your emergency survival kit.
Oh, and where do you expect this blizzard to rank in terms of big storms that we've seen here in the region?
It's really going to depend on the location, since records are different depending on which city that we're talking about. But in terms of just the Northeast in general, we're looking at, if the current forecasts verify, we're looking at potentially top 10, definitely in that range of snow accumulations in recent history.
Owen Shea, thank you so much as always for your expertise. We know it's going to be a busy night for you, so really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So at this hour, the entire state of Connecticut, it is covered by blizzard warnings. Just a short time ago, a statewide travel ban on all commercial vehicles took effect. The governor declaring a state of emergency with possibly 2 feet of snow and blinding wind on the way. We want to take you live now to Mystic, Connecticut, and Stefan Reels from our affiliate WTIC. Stefan, where you are, you're there on the ground. I mean, it seems that at least there's not a whole lot of people on the roads. Is that an indication that people are heeding those warnings from officials?
We've actually talked to a few people about that, not just officials, but also people who have been traveling here from out of state. At this point, they were just keeping an eye on the storm and just getting ready to hunker down. We've seen people from Boston, from Raleigh, all who have come here to Mystic for other activities, work, and they just said, hey, all that's canceled. We're going to be hunkering down for the next few days, just trying to enjoy ourselves. As for the conditions right now, you can kind of see the snow's really starting to pick up now. When it started around 6 p.m., or at least when I noticed it, it was a little light, but now we're slowly starting to see accumulation. Tire tracks, I want you to come with me real quick, starting to form, snow starting to set, and really the most significant thing we're going to see, not necessarily the roads, which are already slick, but we're going to be seeing it on cars and it starting to hang. Unlike the light and fluffy snow we saw the last time, this stuff is going to be wet and heavy, so a lot easier to draw CNN and just have it stay there. So admire my art expertise for a second. Gonna get rid of the evidence now. But I've been talking with state leaders on a more serious note, not just lawmakers, but also the utility members as well who will be handling this. And when I spoke with Eversource, our utility company down here in New England, or I should say up here, they said that they're already expecting outages and that it could take several days, close to a week maybe, for all this restoration to finish. Because with this wet and heavy snow, these high winds and blizzard-like conditions is going to make things very hard for crews, not only to fix things, but get out there. And we were really expecting these high winds to stick around until at least Tuesday, and that is when crews are expected to actually begin most of the power restoration. Up until then, they're just going to really try to focus, help out those fire policemen that they can. But we're also expecting a lot to happen potentially. When I spoke with an Eversource spokesperson yesterday, they said that they had already initiated their emergency plan to help tackle a lot of things, and that could potentially mean we could see up to 130,000 outages over the course of the storm. That doesn't mean we will, but that is the potential we could witness. And really, right now, we're keeping our eyes on that level because it started at the lowest, at level 5. The last storm we saw in January did not get there. We're already at that yesterday on Saturday. Today on Friday, when Governor Lamont had his press conference to kind of go over what the state was going to see, we heard from the Eversource president that level had gone up to level 4. It only goes up to level 1, so we already went up 1. But I did speak with an Eversource spokesperson, and they said that we could potentially see these restorations take between maybe 2 to 6 days for people out here in Connecticut. So really, the message has just been consistent, whether it came from Governor Lamont or if it came from mayors across the state. Stay inside if you can help it. Let the crews tackle what they can. Back to you, Polo.
Stefan, two things. First off, thank you for that snowy shout out. Appreciate that. And then secondly, the people in Connecticut, they're certainly used to winter weather this time of year. Do you think that they are getting a sense that this is certainly extraordinary, that they're getting the message that authorities there are quite concerned that this may not be the usual winter storm that they're accustomed to?
Well, that's the thing. I've only been in Connecticut for a year, but even compared to the last winter that we went through back in 2025, it was not that bad. We maybe got a few inches, and from what people had said, the past few years had really been a more mild winter. So when we had the storm last January, that was intense, and we dealt with a lot of problems, especially with the cleanup. A lot of towns across the state had problems because people weren't really obeying those parking bans, and so plows couldn't really get through those streets. And even for myself, when I was trying to leave the station to go home, it was really hard to pass through those neighborhood streets. So you're starting to see people take a little more seriousness with this, stock up, do what they can. But this is also from what lawmakers have said, what people have said, the biggest storm we've seen in years. So there is that added seriousness that we've been trying to convey to our viewers here at Fox 61, and other people have been trying to as well.
We are tracking what could be one of the biggest winter storms in years here in the Northeast. New York, Philadelphia, Boston, all expecting 1.5 feet of snow or more before the storm ends later tomorrow. Here in New York, schools will be closed tomorrow. No remote learning. It's a full snow day. Boston public schools and offices will also be closed. And tonight, travel will be banned in New York, except for emergency vehicles. Thousands of flights have already been canceled, with many more set to be affected tomorrow. Meteorologist Chris Warren is at the CNN Weather Center tracking all of this. Chris, this is developing rapidly. Every time we talk to you, it's certainly getting heavier outside. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, we are seeing the snow increase in some areas. This is the forecast satellite, and the majority of the explosive development, so this rapid strengthening, the majority of that process is going to happen between now and around 1 o'clock in the morning, with the look of the satellite going from this to that, much more symmetrical look, which is usually a sign of a strengthening storm. And then it's going to stay strong at its strongest midday tomorrow until it passes by. So wind and a lot of snow. That combination is the reason there are blizzard warnings, blizzard conditions expected from Virginia here on the Delmarva all the way up to the entire state of Delaware, the entire state of New Jersey under a blizzard warning, and all the way up to parts of New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, both states under blizzard warnings, most of Massachusetts, coastal areas, New Hampshire, and in Maine. Here is the snow, darker purple, showing an increase in the heavier snow as it gets into the overnight hours. Winds are going to pick up and the snow's also going to pick up. Not as much rain. That is changing over now in Virginia to snow. Snow is moving into Connecticut, Rhode Island now, starting to get into Massachusetts, snow falling on the South Shore in Nantucket. The European forecast model has come into line, at least closer to the GFS. This one's showing a foot of snow in many locations. Another forecast model is showing that we're going to see potentially up to a couple of feet. Here's the timing for this, with the snow ongoing through mid-morning, afternoon, evening hours before it pulls off. Coastal flooding also a possibility. And Jessica, what we are expecting in terms of the severity of this system, widespread here, millions of people here, tens of millions of people with major impacts and extreme impacts in some of these areas where blizzard conditions are expected.
All right. Thank you so much for that update. I do want to touch base now with CNN's Gloria Pazmino, who is outside here in New York. Gloria, you've been out there now for a while and seen how things are evolving. What is the latest?
Yeah, Jessica, definitely starting to feel those blizzard-like conditions. The wind has significantly picked up in the last hour or so, and we are just getting a heavy, steady snowfall now. It is very much starting to stick, and it is starting to accumulate on the ground, on surfaces, sidewalks, cars that are parked. So over the next several hours, we expect conditions here to continue to deteriorate into the evening and into the early morning hours on Monday. Now, the city of New York is taking this very seriously. They've put severe, drastic measures into place, including a travel ban, which is starting at 9 o'clock this evening. And of course, there have been significant travel disruptions. More than 8,000 flights have been canceled. Some of the train systems, NJ Transit, Amtrak, the MTA, all making adjustments to their schedules. And of course, it's New York City, Central Park, so it's usually packed with tourists, including several who we spoke to here today who told me their travel and their plan had been disrupted, but they're still just trying to enjoy the beautiful snow earlier today. Take a listen.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with this snow, I love it. Okay. The only thing is that with our Broadway Chicago show was cancelled for today.
Well, we're supposed to go back tomorrow at 6:15, but we've realised our flight's been cancelled. We're going to go to Wicked tonight, and that's been cancelled.
Yes. No, maybe it will be cancelled. We get a message on our mobile phone that maybe it will be cancelled.
Hey, are you ready?
Yeah, we will stay at the hotel. They have rooms, and I would be happy when I would stay because I like snow.
Jessica, as we get into this evening and as conditions continue to deteriorate, very important to mention also the city keeping close watch on vulnerable New Yorkers, homeless people who may be outside. They have significantly increased the number of warming centers, homeless shelters, relaxing their requirements so that people can go inside, take shelter. 84 people were put into shelter as of yesterday. Many more tonight. There are teams out there 24/7. Of course, the last winter storm was extremely dangerous, very cold. 19 people died as a result. So the city also keeping a close eye on that tonight.
And we continue our coverage of the monster winter storm that could bring record snowfall to parts of the Northeast. The snow is coming down fast in a number of states. Whiteout conditions could threaten more than 40 million people. We know 1 to 2 feet of snow is expected in major metro areas, including New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. Here in New York City, all non-emergency travel has been banned as the city potentially faces its biggest snowstorm in years. CNN's Chris Warren is joining us now from the CNN Weather Center with the latest. Chris, that ban goes into effect at 9 p.m. It's going to go until noon tomorrow, indicating this storm's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, it is, and that really goes along the lines with just a couple days ago. Even the National Weather Service was saying what is expected with the amount of snow in the wind, treacherous, if not life-threatening travel. So you understand why a travel ban would be going into effect. And this is a product from the National Weather Service. And just by looking at this, without talking about what type of weather, just saying that when it comes to winter storm, winter weather impacts, major in red, extreme in purple. So major to extreme impacts here from around Atlantic City all the way up to Providence, Rhode Island, and into Boston, even parts of Maine. Now, a big reason for that, the snow, the amount of snow and the wind. Blizzard conditions expected. Blizzard warnings here from Virginia and the Delmarva all the way up to Maine. The entire state of Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island in blizzard warnings. And here is the snow that's falling right now. Darker purple is showing us where the heavier snow is coming on shore. Lightning closer to where the development of that center is going to be. The center is developing and it's going to rapidly strengthen over the next several hours and remain strong throughout the day tomorrow. But right now, rain changing over to snow, snow getting heavier on Long Island and in New York, southern Connecticut. So it is now getting into the point where it is full swing. Reasonable expectation of what we can expect in terms of snowfall from the Delmarva, anywhere from 8 inches to 12 inches. Now, its pockets in here could see closer to 2 feet, but widespread, more than a foot of snow can be expected along much of the Interstate 95 corridor as we're seeing these very strong winds pushing the water to the shoreline. Minor to moderate flooding will be significant across some of these areas with temperatures right around the freezing mark. This is what we call wet snow. They're actually partially melted snowflakes that stick together. They're these huge looking snowflakes. They're heavier. There's more water in each snowflake. So what that means is the snow is going to stick to stuff and be heavy. So branches, power lines, more likely to lead to the potential of some power outages. So Jessica, here's a look at the extent of some of the flood alerts as well. A lot of that ocean water pushing onshore.
A powerful winter storm that is sweeping across the northeastern United States where heavy snow is accumulating, and we're now bracing for the potential of blizzard conditions in the coming hours. The Storm Prediction Center is now warning of prolonged overnight whiteouts that are possible from New York City to Boston, where snow will fall through Monday morning as you see that system via this radar. Some heavy bands could potentially dump up to 2 inches of snow per hour. More than 40 million people across 11 states are under blizzard warnings, including in New Jersey, where power outages are now mounting, and some areas have already seen more than a half foot of snow. So what does it look like on the ground, especially here in New York City, where authorities have been preparing? Let's go to CNN's Gloria Pazmino, who continues our live coverage from Midtown Manhattan. Gloria, good to see you again. We're several hours into this. Has the city said, have they shared if there are any troubled areas right now, any areas of concern thus far?
We have seen some accidents throughout the city in the last few hours, and that is part of the reason, Paula, why the mayor put in a travel ban as of 9 o'clock this evening. So we're 2 hours into it now, and we have seen the streets get more and more desolate. There are still people walking around, and there are still some vehicles on the road, but the mayor has asked New Yorkers that if they can help it at all, to just stay home tonight. You're going to make it very difficult for sanitation and emergency workers to get around, potentially get into an accident, potentially get stuck. So if you can help it, stay home. We've also watched as the city's plows have been coming around over the last several hours. More than 2,000 pieces of equipment are out in force tonight, making sure that the streets are cleaned. And for the next several hours, we are expecting this snow to significantly pile up. We are on track now to potentially see some historic numbers by tomorrow morning. The last time we had significant snowfall here in New York City was January of 2016. We got 27.5 inches. And as I say that, honestly, I am just a little bit afraid for what the morning is going to look like, because once we get over a foot of snow in New York City, it becomes very hard to get around. So that's part of the reason for the travel ban. Listen to the mayor earlier today talking about why he wants New Yorkers to stay off the roads.
We are declaring a state of emergency and instituting a travel ban starting at 9 p.m. this evening and ending at 12 p.m. tomorrow. This state of emergency closes the streets, highways, and bridges of New York City for all traffic, cars, trucks, scooters, and e-bikes, with some specific exemptions for essential and emergency movement. We are asking New Yorkers to avoid all non-essential travel. Please, for your safety, stay home, stay inside, and stay off the roads.
Now, Paulo, we've been talking about how these are blizzard conditions. We are under a blizzard warning here in New York City, and we haven't had that in a few years. And what that means is that visibility is severely being affected, and also that the winds are significant, between 30 and 35 miles per hour. All of those conditions sustained for at least 3 hours. That's what gives you a blizzard. So the next few hours, if you do not need to be outside, it's getting late into the evening, we're going to go inside. And tomorrow morning, when the travel ban lifts at noon, much of the cleanup is going to begin. The city does have some challenges ahead of itself. There was some criticism for the mayor a few weeks ago during the last storm. I will say that storm was much colder, and that made conditions much more difficult, especially for people outside. It's not as cold today, but still a very dangerous storm. The city also deploying outreach workers to make sure that anyone who may be vulnerable and may still be outside tonight is brought inside for their safety. Paulo?
You know, Gloria, it is so telling, too, that the snow is only covering one side of your hat. I think for viewers watching your report, if they happen to be watching it without audio, that tells you everything, the intensity and the direction of the snowfall. And because of that, we're incredibly grateful to you and your team as well for your reports all night. Thank you. CNN's Gloria Pazmino with a live report from New York. We want to go from there to Robin Christensen. He's the mayor of Dover, Delaware, the state's capital. He joins me from Dover. Mayor, welcome to CNN. Thank you so much for taking the time to update us.
Good evening.
So wondering if you can bring our viewers up to speed with what the situation is like there where you are, and what are your biggest concerns at this hour, as many people there are in for a rough night?
So at this point in time, I want to commend, first off, all of our emergency services, our police, our volunteer fire department, EMS. All of my city workers have been mobilized to put every piece of equipment that we have on the street to keep emergency lanes open to our Bay Health Kent General Hospital facility.
We're going to get more now on the winter storm that is lashing the northeastern U.S. at this hour. CNN's Gloria Pazmino reports on that from New York City.
Well, there's a travel ban in effect here in New York City that will not lift until noon on Monday. The mayor of the city of New York, Zohran Mamdani, asking New Yorkers to stay off the roads. Not only will it be dangerous into the later evening hours, but he is also asking people to stay off the roads so that emergency workers and sanitation workers who are in charge of the cleanup can get to work. Also importantly, going into Monday morning, the mayor announced that the city's schools will be closed and students will have a full snow day. That means no remote learning, which is what they had to do less than a month ago when we had the last storm. So that is certainly very good news for New York City kids who will be able to enjoy the snow. Going into the evening, conditions are expected to significantly deteriorate. The snow has started to pile up here in Central Park. The wind is picking up and it is very cold. That means it's very dangerous to be outside for extended periods of time. The city increasing resources and outreach to make sure that vulnerable homeless New Yorkers can be brought into shelter. Now, we are, here in New York, a lot of people are very much over winter, kind of done with the snow, but there were also some who were out here willing to enjoy it. Take a listen.
I am so ready to be done. It's not even funny. You know, with our first snowstorm that happened a few weeks ago, my flight to Mexico got completely canceled. So I've had enough. Yeah. You know, now that they're labeling this as like a true blizzard, yeah. I don't even know what to expect of this.
I'm just headed to the gym. I'm not thinking about the cold too much.
Okay.
I love the snow too, so beautiful to be outside today.
Now, the city has deployed more than 2,000 pieces of equipment to clean up the snow, 2,600 sanitation workers who are working 12-hour shifts to help with the cleanup. They've also opened up warming centers and deployed warming buses for those vulnerable New Yorkers. And the travel ban expected to lift at noon on Monday, when much of the cleanup will begin. Gloria Pasmino, CNN, New York.
And a major winter storm is slamming northeastern U.S. with heavy snow and gusty winds. This is a live look from above the Statue of Liberty in New York City. This is courtesy of EarthCam. Right now, New Yorkers are expecting between 12 to 18 inches of snow. Meanwhile, more than 40 million people are under blizzard warnings. That's across 11 states. Right now, roughly 250,000 customers are without power from Virginia up through New England. This is a look at this massive and frankly dangerous storm from space as it officially reaches bomb cyclone status, which means it's rapidly strengthened.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Audie Cornish, and here is where we begin that breaking news of this powerful winter storm that is getting more and more intense. This morning, a bomb cyclone slammed into the Northeast with heavy snow and whiteout conditions. Overnight, snow was falling at a rate of 2 inches per hour.
Had it with the snow. This winter has been too cold, too snowy, too miserable. I'm ready for it to be over.
Okay, so this is video just in of New York City's Central Park. People starting to attempt to shovel out. More than 40 million people are under blizzard warnings. That's across 11 states. And once it's all said and done, some places could get more than 2 feet of snow. The storm is creating treacherous travel conditions. This morning, more than 10,000 flights have already been canceled. And officials are urging everyone in the storm's path to take it seriously.
Boston is no stranger to nor'easters, but this is going to be a big one.
New York City has not faced a storm of this scale in the last decade.
There are incredibly high winds, up to 60 miles per hour. That means that we could see branches and trees falling into the highway, drifts and whiteout conditions.
Our statewide power utility estimates that there could be 100 to 150,000 power outages. There's only 1 million people in Rhode Island.
For your own safety, bottom line, stay off the roads.
Philadelphia has already gotten more than 6.5 inches, and this is far from over. And that's where we find CNN's Brian Todd. Brian, I was speaking to you earlier. How have conditions shifted?
Well, Audie, interesting you mentioned our conversation earlier. That hour at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, we were at the foot of the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the Rocky Steps. And right after that live shot, a Philadelphia police officer came over to us and talked to us about some of the conditions in the general area. And she told us about what had happened here. This is Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, about 2 miles from where we were last hour. This officer told us about this downed tree, saying it made part of the road impassable. And you can see that right here. It's not completely impassable. You've got a lane open here, but this tree just came down overnight, and these are the kind of conditions that you're going to be faced with here in the Philadelphia area. You know, Governor Josh Shapiro talked about possible accumulations around Philadelphia and some of the other conditions. Here's what he had to say.
We expect there to be very, very significant snowfall in the Philadelphia region. Right now, those estimates are about 18 to 24 inches. To Pennsylvanians out there, especially to our kids, I hope you enjoy the storm. I hope you have fun in the snow, but I also hope that folks take it seriously.
Right, so he talks about those accumulations, 18 to 24 inches. The latest we have heard and seen from the National Weather Service and people reporting accumulations are that we believe it's roughly 11 inches so far in the Philadelphia area and about 14 inches in some areas of